fun mixes with my hands, paper macheing that to all this cool cardboard. I did make this cool kind of dragony type creature. I didn't finish all of the areas. I will tell you that as long as you paint this with thick paint, it will be fine. I'm going to use paints to add color to my sculpture. But if you create anything of your own imagination from cardboard or using paper mache, you could get creative with whatever you have and whatever time you have. I will just do a quick review actually of everything that you should all know about mixing your own colors. And again, true stories from Mrs. Wilson. I have so many stories. Why not? I want to tell you that when I first started teaching, I had taught in one school in Maryland for 5 years. And by the time I was in my 5th year teaching, as an art teacher, I only ordered 5 colors of paint. I'd order yellow, red, blue, and then white and black. And what was really cool was I remember noticing that my older kids that had me all those 5 years, they knew exactly what to do at the paint center. They could make their own orange. They could make their own green. And they could make their own purple or violet, which seems to be the trickiest color. But if you don't have paints at home, you could use other materials. I would recommend that with paper mache, it's a little pasty, so you may not want to use marker because the tips of your markers may get a little bit of the flour mix left over on the tip, and it actually could mess up the marker. But here's another cool idea of something you could do with markers at home. These are old, there were old markers in here. This was actually a project that was sort of like art and science mixed that I was doing with some first graders this year, and I saved all of these homemade paints. This was 6 old blue dried out markers that the caps were removed and saved for something else. And we filled a bottle that far full of water, put the cap back on the bottle, left this water bottle with markers sit in the windowsill in the sun for over a month. And it turns out that it actually makes a really pretty dark blue paint, but it's watery paint. So if you're going to use any kind of watercolor paint onto a paper mache project, first, what you should do is layer glue on it by pouring glue in a little cup and painting the glue all over your paper mache first. That will give it a nice coating and it will protect it from falling apart. At the same time, I will say that if you make a paper mache project and you would like to create a painted effect, the best choice for paints would be what is known as tempera. Now, tempera is washable paint, and once it's set and dry, if you get it wet, it actually can smear. There is what is known as acrylic paint. Acrylic paint is permanent. Once it is dry, it cures, and it is very difficult to get off of hard surfaces or your artwork or clothing. When it's wet, you can remove it quickly. A lot of people prefer acrylic paint that are older, like in 5th grade and beyond, or maybe even 4th, but it is more expensive, but you can find different versions of it. And I'm going on here before I get started. Sorry about that. I just wanted to cover everything because I always feel like I just want to share so much. Whatever you have at home to be creative with is your best advantage, because being creative with what you have is what will make you an artist, boys and girls. Now, I have an egg carton. I love saving the styrofoam ones for pouring paint in, because then you can close the egg carton, and your paint can stay moist or wet in there for up to 5 days, as long as it's not in a super hot, dry room. Okay, it seems like my internet connection is stable where it is, but I've had to pull my laptop up. Now let's see if I can test it. Let's see if I can pull it back to where I prefer to have it so I can paint in front of the camera. Let's cross our fingers. the paint stain. Okay, so I'm going to take this, and of course, this is just something I decided to do on camera for any student watching out there in case you do need a little review of how to make your own colors. For example, let's just say you did want to buy some paint or have paint and you could only buy 3 bottles. These would be my 3 color choices because you can make every other color. Now, what I'm going to do is pour some yellow in several, I'll call them wells of my egg carton. And I'm going to leave 1 yellow, but then I'm going to turn 1 green. The way I'm going to do that, boys and girls, is I'm going to take, and I wish they would put a better tab to pull these, but they don't. So I'm just going to poke a hole. That's what I do. I'm going to pour just a little bit of blue on top of 1. And if I stir that, that'll be fun that I can share in a few minutes that will make green. I'm going to try something here. I'm going to angle my screen down. Instead of looking at me, you might see my Mona Lisa and you'll see the paint only. And you'll notice that I have 4 yellows. So I'm going to take this blue and set it to the side, although I actually need 4 blues as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I guess, I never thought about this, but because this egg carton has 12 wells for 12 eggs, I've got the perfect amount, since we all know 4 times 3 is 12. Okay, so my last primary color is red. And I'm going to do the same thing where I just take a paintbrush here and just poke that open because Mrs. Wilson has magical creativity's own fingers, but not very many long fingernails. I'm going to go ahead and squirt the red in my 4 wells. Now, if you have white paint at home, I always like to remind my students, if for some reason you're not my student watching this, white makes everything light. So if you just add white to any of your colors, you would have that advantage. However, I'm not going to worry about that right now because I just wanted this to be a quick review, like I mentioned. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say that before I put the red away, everybody here should know that if I put a squirt of red over my yellow, when I stir and mix that, I'll get a cool orange. If I put a squirt of this red into the blue, when I stir and stir and stir, I will get a purple. Purple is the trickiest. It is really, really tricky to get perfect. But the more you stir and stir and stir and stir and stir and stir and stir, you may realize that's how you just figure out how to make the violet that looks violet to you. Okay, now I'm going to say that the only colors I haven't mixed into that is, I guess I could have left out those 4 wells with the red, but I just get so excited to share ideas with my students or anybody watching here. So what I'll do is I will put a little bit of, what I'll do is I'll put a lot of yellow into that. And I didn't discuss too, by the way, if you're painting your sculpture or anything you're painting too, you could look at this lesson that way. If you mix all 3 primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, you may recall from your art lessons, whoever taught you, that those 3 colors all together make brown. So just a few reminder tips, because I'm sure everybody watching this video has already learned all of those basic color theory concepts with your art teacher. And it is a science, which is always fun to remember. Art has a lot of things about it that makes it like other subjects. Math's involved, science is involved. I love to tie in social studies where you learn about history, because every human being on the planet for the past 40,000 years has made art, way back to the prehistoric cave paintings people found. Okay, so what I'm going to do is prop my camera directly so that you can see as I have fun and do a little stirring action here, because it's always fun to watch. I don't care how old you are. I think it's a blast to paint. There is this really cool artist that people might enjoy looking up, because remember, boys and girls and parents, anybody watching, Mrs. Wilson just could go on forever to share all of her information that she knows. There was this really cool artist named Grandma Moses, or so she liked to be called. She didn't start painting until she was in her 80s. And this was a long time ago, but she's a famous artist. Her art is famous. And she never went to any formal training, but she taught herself how to paint. And she used to paint landscapes. And she used to love to say, I paint from the sky down. That was what she started to talk about when people asked her, how do you paint? Now, I think I have a decent amount of colors here. They may look darker in this pack. And what I'll do is just say that I learn as I am, never stop learning, boys and girls. I'm learning how to use YouTube to further enrich any students out there that would love to have a choice in the art activities for our school district. And again, I realize because it's YouTube, somebody else may be watching, so anybody watching can learn. I learned that I can't seem to create a fast forwarded video approach. I tried to do that when I was making my paper mache, because I did a 45-minute video doing this. And then I presented an edited version that's only 20 some minutes so that people could just sort of see a cut version, because I thought that I would be able to do a fast forwarded version and I couldn't figure out how to do that. So I cut parts. So what I'm going to do is let the camera roll while I have fun and just paint my sculpture. And then I will edit it later and cut sections out. So if you're curious, if you notice when you see this, wow, it went from being totally white to now it's all colored. I did that so that this video wouldn't be too long, because I'm aware we're all busy and parents and families at home getting these videos available for your kids, for students that we know, I know maybe, they may not have enough time to sit and watch the whole video. But I'm just going to have fun and do some painting. I think I'm just going to have fun and do some painting on the face. You know what? Why not? I'll use my creativity sign to prop this up. Oh, by the way, I will stop whenever I get to that point in the video if I cut any of that out. Now, I just remembered something that I wanted to do here to share. One, if you watch the paper mache video of how I made paper mache using flour and water, I mentioned this really cool type of bought kind of paper mache. And this is the kind that I have found works really, 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 really good. Although there was another brand I first found called Ross. That's Ross and Elmer's are two types of glue companies. This kind, I buy it now. I mean, I haven't had to buy it in a long time because I've stashed a lot for a while as an art teacher. But this comes with a little bag inside that makes a whole gallon of this real gooey, clear paper mache paste. And it's just called art paste. What's really cool about it is when after you make it, if you store it in like a gallon bottle or something that has a lid that closes, it does last for a week. And I refrigerated it. I figured that would keep it more preserved. And in the past, I've done that with students, and it's a little slimy, but there's no smell. I have never heard of somebody having an allergy, and I just wanted to share that. So that's what I really, really like. Although I gotta be honest, the flour and water paper mache held up really, really well. The other thing I was going to share is I wanted to make sure I shared this before I forget. If you mix a little bit of glue into your paints, the color won't be affected, but when the paint is dry, it will have a nice, clear shine to it because of the Elmer's glue. That's something that's a little trick that won't make the paint permanent, but it would prevent the project from maybe running if it accidentally got rained on or dripped on by water or something. And again, if you had other things at home like glue guns and pom-poms and wiggle eyes and fabric, and you could do all kinds of things. I am encouraging you as an artist and a teacher and someone who just loves to be creative, that you don't have to do any of the specific things I'm doing. I'm just kind of having a good time sharing. And I just stirred up the green paint that I'm using right now with that. Trying to be thoughtful as I make these videos, because I'm trying my best, but it's a little tricky. I've never done this before this year with everything going on. To figure out ways to communicate with my families and students is another fun thing to do, to reach out and say hi to people and make art. I'm trying to turn the project so you can see what I'm doing. If you're not quite sure what I'm painting here, this is supposed to be the eyes of this creature that I made. And I did run out of paper mache when I got to the cardboard that I shoved into a tape ring. It was the ring, the big circle that I just painted green on the outside here. It was the cardboard that comes on a roll of tape when the tape runs out. And then this was a cut paper tube that I just sort of shoved in there and taped together. So I thought it would be really fun to just get creative and figure out how I could take the tape and wedge cardboard in there. And now I'm going to be turning it around better so people can see. That's what I'm messing with. I'm just moving some things around from my studio. Got some paint brushes that I had out. There we go. I just thought it would be really fun to be able to share. I really like creatures and dragons that aren't real. I love animals, to be honest. Maybe there's a favorite animal of yours. And by the way, if you do watch this video, whether if you create another type of art that isn't from the choice board and you just want to share with Mrs. Wilson, feel free to share that. You know that if I'm your teacher, I work at Mill Hall Elementary this year and Liberty Curtin, but I've also taught at Renova Elementary and Woodward Elementary. There. So I think I'm just going to have fun with that. I'm lucky because I have a lot of paintbrushes. If you didn't have as many paintbrushes at home, you could always just take your brush and rinse it out. If you didn't have a paintbrush, you could use a Q-tip. You didn't have that? You could even think about how a paintbrush is made. Perhaps you'd like to figure out how you could take a stick, kind of wind some string around it. Really tight until you got it to the point where it was kind of bumpy on the end, and you could figure out how you could do something like that. Never stop being creative. You could always do more with that. One color I did not really use a lot of is the purple. Although I gotta tell you, I gotta show you this paint. It looks so cool with the glue. The glue is just sort of like melting into it. And oh, that's my brush that's got a problem. I forgot this glue. This brush needs fixed. I better put it on the side. I was gonna say where the glue is sort of like laying on top of the paint looks really, really neat. I decided to make that a reddish color. And when you put the glue into the paint and stir it, it doesn't turn lighter. It just, like I said, it will make it shinier on your project. But just don't forget, if you really like your paintbrushes, which I hope you do, you want to make sure you wash them really good when you're done. Just really kind of put your fingers on the tip of the brush under the water, or push them down at the end of the sink where the water hits the bottom of the sink, and really wash them, because you don't want to let them sit overnight, because that glue will dry hard as rock on that project or on your brushes, and it can actually make the brushes ruined, depending on the quality of the brush. You know, I feel kind of silly doing this in a way, because I'm demonstrating how to paint. I know everybody here knows how to paint. And a Zoom is coming up that I want to go to, and I think I'm going to be doing the rest of this painting during the Zoom, because I know there's going to be kids that would enjoy seeing me do that, um, may not watch this video. But again, this was a little demonstration for people that may want to try this project from the choice board. And I'll just do a little bit more painting to get this front part started. But I think I got a little too carried away with the green. I got a lot of green going on. Green is a cool color that seems to be used a lot for dragons, but I don't think it has to be green. I mean, obviously, based on what paint you have or what you have, you could create all kinds of interesting effects. Of course, I have not added any of my favorite color. Any boys and girls out here that know who I am, or teachers, or anybody, I love orange. So I might have to add some orange to my dragon before you guys go. I think I'm going to add orange to this part that is kind of bouncy. And hey, I'll wrap up this quick little video, because this is I'm going to make this shorter. This quick little video here from the Creativity Zone with Mrs. Wilson, doing a final activity with her paper mache project, which is going to be the grade 3 to 5 choice board activity for art for the last round of choice boards. I just want to say that really been excited that people like these videos. I will continue to share extra little videos and post them on the Creativity Corner page at the KCSD website. But for this, if you watch it there or during this choice board event coming up, you may remember that for the first part of my paper mache project, this head was heavy and I had to figure out how to prop it, and it worked. It's a little bouncy, actually, and it's really fun. I really want to take my time on this and maybe add more things too with crafty stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that I'll put my funny little face facing you. If you hey, use your creativity power, and you might see the face of my dragon creature. I just want to say to everybody out there again, I hope that everybody is well. I'm thinking of everybody. I hope you're safe and enjoy that beautiful weather as the weather gets nice, and happy waving hands. Okay. Thinking of everybody out there. Enjoy. Bye.